Hi guys, welcome to What on New Earth. My name is Debbie DuBois, and if you are new here, I am an awakening creator being just like you. I have this need, however, that I need to express in order to integrate, so I like to make videos about it. And this particular video I had it in the works because I realized in the last two videos that I had talked about self-loathing, self-hatred, having an experience that helps bring me back to center. But what I realized upon reflection is I really didn't talk about the most important part. And so I was planning a third video on self-love, okay, and how to get back to that creator being. Well, I was in the shower this morning and my creator being essential essence, I would say my inner being, AniYanna, she just started. And I was like, why can't I have a video camera in the shower? Because I had so much information coming through and it was so powerful. And she assured me that I wasn't going to forget any of it, but to go out there and make the video now. So here I am. So when I was 18 years old, I remember saying, I want to get so strong that no one can blow out my candle. And I think that that was a result of the fact that, like most younger people, I had those inner insecurities, not knowing who I am, and felt really uncomfortable in my own skin. And of course, I really was pretty aware of the fact that this world is kind of topsy-turvy. And, the kids, they could be kind of mean. When I was a sensitive little girl and I would just cry and real easily. And it really was the beginning of the journey that made me realize that I needed to get to that space. So I've been on this journey for a really long time. So as I'm in the shower, I'm realizing, what is it that returned me to what I would consider a state of self-love? Because I didn't really talk about the fact that since the integration of this inner being experience that happened in March, one of the things that had been happening but was becoming like crystal clear is that all of a sudden I had this feeling of self-love and self-acceptance that I don't remember experiencing. And I started to realize, okay, this is what it feels like to be a creator being. And I started to feel a great deal of self-love in a really healthy way, right? So I was in the shower and it came to me, what is it that one needs to do in order to get to this place? What did I do to get to this place? And this speaks to experience. And I've been kicking the ground and trying to figure out what is my experience. Well, of course we all have a life experience. What is it that I'm really experienced in? Watching people that are experiencing, contact with home, going into the Akashic records, going out of body. What's my experience? My experience is waking up to being a creator being and knowing it without a doubt. And my path wasn't the other directions, but I realized what my experience is and how I got there. And that is the message I'm here to share today. And the answer is accepting full responsibility for your life. It's as simple as that. When you start to accept responsibility for everything around you, you have the steering wheel. So you can look around you and you can say, oh, this got canceled. Oh, this thing happened and this thing happened. And oh my gosh, I can take responsibility. And I can figure out why it happened. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are not going to want to hear this message. They're going to be like, I don't know if I really believe that, because we've been trapped in a construct and we've been, interfered with. And if I only knew who I was and I didn't go through this, I would, so in other words, they're not willing to accept responsibility, right? And it's perfectly understandable, because what the construct did when we agreed to put this paper bag over our head and forget who we are, we agreed to so many things that we didn't understand were coming. What is a creator being who knows all and believes all how do they really think it's going to go over when they put that paper bag on their head? They're going to be like, yeah, I'll be fine. We're fine, aren't we? We're all fine. So when we put that bag over our head, we did cut ourselves off from knowing who we are. And everything in this construct has been trying to convince you that you're nothing, right? And what I noticed is that this polarization, you've got two types of connection. So back in my 20s, I went to therapy, and I went through the transactional analysis, and oh my gosh, I had experience with meditation and hypnosis and all this other fun stuff. It was in that time period that I learned about the two sides, which now I kind of think of in a different context. I'll tell you what they are. First is the neurotic person, and the neurotic person thinks that everything is their fault. They blame themselves for everything. All right. And the opposite, the polar opposite of that, is character disoriented, and they blame others for everything. So it's really interesting that there's quite a parallel between neurotic and what we consider the empath today, and the character disoriented, which we tend to think of as the narcissist. And I've talked about the fact that we're going to get into that in future videos. But what I realized is that I always understood that people that are neurotic or tend to think that they're to blame for everything, and I fell in that spectrum. Oh, what did I say? That I did something wrong, and that's why this person doesn't like me, or whatever. I always would take responsibility. There's the key word. I would take responsibility. Think about that. Now, if you have neurotic tendencies and you seem to feel that you're to blame for everything, oh my God, my parents did this because I was bad, whatever. If you tend to take responsibility for stuff and you're more neurotic, you're more likely to accept responsibility for the creation of your life. That is the truth. I think it's a lot harder for people that are character disoriented or think others are to blame for their problems. They're much more difficult to actually grab the steering wheel because they feel that everything is outside their control. And so, I've been listening, even like on TikTok, I've been listening to some recovering narcissists who have been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. And the things that they talk about is how they don't feel good about themselves inside. So they pump themselves up and they take control of things because inside they feel really small. Okay? Isn't that the definition of a bully? But those are the people that feel that the rest of the world is to blame for their circumstances. And that is a lot harder to make that shift to accepting responsibility. Now, if you're neurotic and you think, oh my God, I did this and I did this, you start going, well, I am pretty much responsible for everything that's happening around me. All I need to do is make the shift to that in my favor. So that is really the long and short of the message of the path back to self-love. Is what it means to be a creator being is to know your power. What it means to be a creator being is to understand that every thought you're having is creating dimensional spaces. In this reality, we don't always know what we're wanting to create. And I think that that's been the biggest problem for me personally in my, when I look back and reflect on what I've created in my life. And also, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, Course in Miracles, but because I look back and I think to myself, I never really knew what I wanted. When you're a creator being and you have a bag over your head and you don't remember that you're creating anything, you kind of feel like you're just going down a hallway and you're like, I don't really like this hallway. I think I'm going to back up and go down this hallway. And you're not really sure what you're here for. You don't know what you're trying to achieve. I guess that's part of the game. It's part of the video game, right? So as you're going down these hallways and you come to a screeching halt and say, yeah, back up, I don't really like that. You end up feeling like everything happens by chance. Now, from my understanding, we actually do have particular paths that we are meant to walk down. And I do believe that circumstances to some degree have moved us in particular directions to kind of influence us and steer us to kind of stay on the path. I've sort of visualized it as you can choose what hallway you're going to walk down, but how you get down there, are you going to go kicking and screaming, or are you going to dance down it? That's kind of where your free will comes in. It's like, how are you going to respond to what's there? And again, that's part of the game, okay? But because we don't really have a set idea when we first get here, it's very difficult to see that we had anything to do with how things turned out. But the truth is that the entire time we were affecting things by our thoughts, by how we viewed ourselves, how we viewed others, what we didn't want to own about ourselves. We're projecting it out there. So in this period of time where we are returning back to the inner being, I notice that a lot of the people that are making the biggest leaps right now are people that are saying, wow, I have to take responsibility for my situation and I need to make some changes, I guess I could go into an example, and I'm sure Kimberly won't mind. My business partner, she had an Airbnb. She sold her Airbnb for a good amount, and she bought a property and another property, and had a dream of where she wanted to take things. And when it came right down to it, that was a year and a half ago, I think, all of a sudden, just recently, since the huge infusion of that inner being that we have all gotten, this isn't just, this is not a select group of people. We all have gotten this huge infusion. So one day she just woke up and she goes, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want she had gotten a house that she had to put a lot of work into and everything else. And she stopped and she realized, wow, I created this situation and now I'm going to uncreate it and I'm going to create it differently. And she wasn't even sure how to do that. But I don't know, my head was spinning. I can't believe how fast this girl turned shit around. I mean, she had, sold one of the properties or listed it, and had 3 offers on it the next day. And then she's over here, she makes the decision, I'm going to sell the other house and I've got another property on it and I'm going to build this. And everything just took off. When we really accept that we got ourselves in a place that we're not happy with, and we open up to the possibility of help from our inner being, this is where your inner being starts showing you just how powerful you are. So, it's funny because one of the things I didn't talk about in the other videos, and I think that this is also one of the most important aspects in my experience, is that when I decided to take full responsibility, I realized what I needed to take the most responsibility for was my inner being connection. And it's so tempting in this world to put other things first. But this is where my journey had led me to a place of boundaries, right? And self-care and self-love. And I think a lot of us think of this as being take care of your physical needs. Make sure you get plenty of rest. Make sure that you have your alone time. Make sure that you have time to reflect. All of those things are really important. And I don't mean to minimize them because I've done all of that. Making sure that you put the right foods in your body, making sure that that you don't get yourself into situations that you don't prefer. Those kinds of things are self-care. But there's another aspect to it that I think is a second level of taking responsibility for creating your reality. When you realize that your inner being knows everything you're needing to do. Everything. It knows where you're supposed to be. It knows what is best for you food-wise. It knows what's best for you exercise. It knows what relationships you need to cut and which ones you need to keep, which ones you need to nurture. Your inner being knows it all. So what I realized, and this is kind of like the second revelation for me on how do you get there to realize you're a creator being, you turn over the steering wheel to your inner being and you make it your priority. And we hear about doing the work. We hear about doing the work. And there are a lot of people in the spiritual community that feel like the work is, going in and purging and releasing energy, and that can be a very valid path. In my experience now and where I've gotten to, I'm beginning to see that when I turned the steering wheel over to the inner being was able to tell me what I needed to do. In other words, I was shown in my own experience that I described in the last two videos, I don't need to go into a past life in order to bring these pieces home, because the pieces would be triggered in this world. And, when you're triggered in this world and there doesn't seem to be a damn reason for it, like what the heck was that for? Can't even see any correlation to this life. It's probably coming from another life, another aspect, a concurrent life you're living. And you don't even need to know what that is. If you want to know, that's great. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know, but it's going to slow you down. It's really going to slow you down. Your inner being will bring these pieces home. And when you can face whatever it is, you don't need a story to go along with it. I was told that a while ago, and it took me a long time for me to really believe that. You don't need a story to go along with it. You don't need to know why. Okay? What you need to know is it's here. It's visiting for a reason. Almost everything is just showing up to show you you're a multidimensional being. This experience you're having is coming from something that you've experienced somewhere in the arc of time. And now that we're wrapping up this nightmare circus, we just need to acknowledge, I want to take that piece home. I want to take this piece home. And to realize that it's all part of your experience. So if you can think about it as records coming home, it's your files being returned to you. It's your memories being returned to you. Our memories, I don't know how many of you can relate to this. Music for me is just a time machine. It is simply a time machine. I mean, yes, we get enjoyment out of it and everything else. But when I listen to certain songs, I transport back to people, places, times, things, feelings. This is our arc of experience. It's all the stuff that is written in the Akashic records. It is the stuff that we're taking with us when we get out of this realm. Okay? We're going to take all of this experience with us. In order to understand that you're a creator being, you need to bring those files and records home. As you bring them home and you start to integrate them into this being here, you start to, I want to say, dissipate the other, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the things that they don't prefer, okay? When you integrate this stuff back in, you are changing the future and the past. You are neutralizing negative experiences. You are realizing that you've been in a video game. So if you're playing 10 different video games, and you're probably playing 1,000 at once, believe it or not, some of you are, some of you aren't. But if you've got 1,000 video games, you're going to shut them all down, and you're going to have this character and this character and this character and all the experiences. But then as soon as all the games are off, you're going to have the controller in your hand, and you're going to be going, wow, I just freaking played like 1,000 video games, and all that experience is back with me. And even though in this game I was playing this shoot 'em up, nasty, killer game, over here I was playing this building, a new world and floating along and collecting shells on the beach, whatever. It's all the experience, and you start to understand who's been playing the game. That creator being is playing the game. And I feel like that really sums up my return to my understanding of me being a creator being. Is I'm getting ready to put down those put down those different games, okay? Getting ready to put down the games and realize that I'm holding the controller. I'm holding the controller. I have the control over my life, okay? Now, I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying here. I do not have all of my innate abilities back. I want to fly. I want to instant manifest, although I am getting pretty good at manifesting. These are the skills, gifts, talents, abilities that we have on the other side that are being returned to us as we ascend in vibration. The most important part, though, for me personally, is that I now know that those are coming back. I know that there is no such thing as death. I remember that I can create any reality that I prefer, that I can go anywhere and do anything. And before I wrap this video up, there is something that I feel is very important to say, is that what I was shown is that I was talking about the neurotic versus the character disoriented. What I've been shown is that things are not black and white. There are not people that are fully empathic and then fully narcissistic. So, as I've been experiencing the what do you want to say, the revelation or the unveiling of this dynamic, which I will be honest with you, is the control structure that has been kind of formed out of how we all responded to becoming, paper bag wearing creator beings. It's kind of what happened in this whole experiment. The healing of all of us is the return to self. When you return to yourself, and you start to realize who you are, these dynamics are shifting and changing right now. This is how it's happening. This is why, I'm on TikTok and I'm seeing narcissistic personality disorders, being declared, hey, I have a narcissistic personality disorder and this is my experience. And then you have some people saying I'm an empath, victim, whatever the terminology is. And people are starting to wake up to these disorders, and they're not really disorders. They're literally personality. I want to say they're infused into our personalities through all of our experiences and in all of our programming to be this polar opposite, service to self, service to others. That's been here forever. They're awakening to the fact that, oh my God, this is stopping me from being happy. This is stopping me from loving myself. And these are maybe even people that don't really delve into the spiritual arena or the soul experience or anything else. But what I was shown, and I think that this is really important, is for us to understand no shame, no blame. There's no side that is better than another. It's not better to be neurotic. It's not better to be character disoriented. These qualities are part of the game. They're part of the experience. And the reason why I bring that up now is that what I was shown is how we can hold relationships where one person tends to be the empathic person, the other person seems to be more service to self, right? And then that same person that's empathic here can go over here and have a service to self attitude with this other empath person. This is multidimensionality right there. There is no black and white. And when we realize that we are a myriad of different spectrums of these personalities, what we realize is that the only thing that matters is to wake up to the fact that that personality is not who you are. And your inner being is working with you right now to show you changes that you need to make in your mindset, changes that you need to make in how you view the world. If you think the world is happening to you, I'm telling you right now, your inner being is going to show you got the steering wheel. They're going to make you take the steering wheel. And until you take that steering wheel, you're going to be miserable. I'm not kidding. And then the person that thinks they're to blame for everything, and everything is not in their control. Well, wait a minute, that's the same. Okay, we're all experiencing the same. Nobody feels, and I listen, I'm generalizing here. I'm not speaking directly to you. I'm talking about the entire world. Only you can determine where you're at. But the point is that it really doesn't matter. We don't need to go in, although that's part of how I discerned this information. This is how it was revealed to me, is I started looking at myself, and I started looking at, well, wait a minute, why am I acting during that self-hatred period of time that I talk about in the first video? If you haven't seen the other two videos, I'm going to put the cards, one right after another above, so you can go look at part 1 and part 2. But this self-hatred period was me investigating this aspect of me that came up all my life. I was neurotic. Oh my God, it's my fault. What did I do? And I would always take the, let me make it up to you. I'm so sorry that we fought. I was always the one that caved in, and then during that period of time, I became this person that just sounded a lot like a narcissist. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, who am I? And that's when I started investigating these personalities, and trying, but again, maybe it was my, what do you want to call it? The neurotic part of me that wanted to take responsibility and go investigate, well, am I a narcissist, right? So I went and investigated those characteristics. And what I found is that we can play all different roles. And I started to really, if you look back on it and I start looking at it, this is all just pieces of myself coming home, because I've been it all. We've all been it all. There's no shame, there's no blame, and there's no secrets on the other side. Everybody knows. They can look at our dynamics. That's why, ascended masters can look and go, oh yeah, this is this, is this, because they just see it so clearly and not attached to, judgment. We're the ones judging ourselves for trying on the paper bag. We need to stop doing that. Your inner being will lead you back to knowing who you are. But my message for the day is, if you really want to know who you are, accept full responsibility for everything you say, everything that you've created, every relationship you have, every injustice, every bad experience. But also accept responsibility for all the amazing things you've done in this world. Where would other people be without you, right? It's a Wonderful Life, that review. That's where I started the first video. We're back to full circle. Where would others be without you? Do you know how many roles you have played with other people? Good, bad, or indifferent? Good, bad, or ugly? You've played so many roles for so many people. And you might even judge that as a bad thing or a good thing. I don't know. That's on you. You'll have to determine. But every single thing you've ever done has been an experience for someone else. So we have to accept responsibility for playing this game. Very soon, we're going to wake up with that controller in our hands and we're going to go, oh, thank effing God. This game's over. And I remember I was playing a game. So anyways, I'm going to leave it right there. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got more videos coming. There's 2 other videos that are part of this series. I also have an article that I wrote about it. I have resource links to other people that have helped me crystallize all of this part of the information. And I haven't said this before. Well, I might have said it in the last video. If you like this video and you know of someone that this would help, please just share it. Give it a thumbs up. And subscribe if you're not already. That does help, but my objective is not to grow a big channel. I don't care about that. I want this message to make its way in front of those who need to hear it. because my inner being showed me. I used to do videos all the time, and I was away for it for, gosh, here and there, a few videos, but I was shown by my inner being that this stuff's got to get out there now. Because right now is when this shift is happening. The faster we can do this and accept responsibility and move into self-love, the faster we are going to have that remote control back in our hands and be awake in our actual bodies, the real ones, the ones that don't age, the ones that don't look old. I'm all for it. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. And until the next video, namaste. See ya. Bye.